We're very excited. We're joined by Rich Chambers today, teacher at Terry Fox, a longtime university, high school, every boys, girls, women, men, coach of everything. So thank you very much for joining us, Rich. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So let's go back. When did you first start getting excited about basketball and as a player, as a person in school? What did that look like, and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Port Moody and went to Port Moody Senior Secondary. Graduated in 1968. The next year, that school burnt down. In grade 11, a guy by the name of Dave Williamson came to our school, and he used to play for the Alberni Athletics. Was an outstanding player, one of the top players in the senior men's league at that time. And he only stayed for a year, but he got a bunch of guys interested in basketball. And then the following year in grade 12, a guy by the name of Tom Harris, who later became the superintendent of schools in Coquitlam, came to our school, and he turned the whole school onto basketball. And we went all the way to the Fraser Valleys and were within one game of qualifying for the BCs that year. And Port Moody had never known. We had like Kenny McKenzie, who played on the national team, and a guy by the name of Brian Morgan, who was one of the best athletes in BC at the time. And so we kind of snuck up on people, beat the North Dells at Stan Stewart's in his early years, and lost the QE in the game to go to the BCs.
Fantastic. And then, so you graduate high school and you decide you're going to university. And are you intent on being a teacher right away, or did you have something else in mind?
No, I wanted to be a teacher. I was young. I graduated high school at 16.
Well, so you were one of those really smart people.
No, I just started in Saskatchewan in grade 5.
Okay.
So when I actually entered Simon Fraser, I was 16. Didn't turn 17 till near the end of September, and I had the maturity of about a 12-year-old. But Tom Harris, our senior boys coach, asked me to coach junior boys. So I coached all my 5 years of university. I coached at Moody Junior.
And so what was that experience like, going from being a high school kid to coaching junior right away? What did that feel like? Well,
I didn't know what I was really doing, and basketball was kind of like, at the junior level, was like, kind of a little bit off, right? So, I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. And but I spent time, and I got the kids interested in basketball.
So you graduate from Simon. Did you get your PDP right away?
I did, and then I student taught at did my practicum at New West and Port Moody Junior. They built the new school where the old senior was, and Gary Scott, a great teacher, and Tom Harris were my faculty associate. And then I got a job at Moody Junior.
Okay, so you were at Moody Junior. You lived just down the street from the school, so that's very.
I lived a block from Moody Junior, and I drove my car every day. I don't really know why, but I did. Every
you had
day.
To carry the Lay's potato chips and the Diet Coke, so I had to get it there somehow. So when you start getting real serious about basketball, when does basketball start taking over your life, which obviously it to this day still does?
Right at Moody Junior. We became really competitive. I inherited a really good group of kids, and we became really competitive, like really quick. And we had really good success at Moody Junior. We just had a batch of kids, but I had been working with them for like 2 or 3 years when I was at Simon Fraser, right? So when I became a teacher full time, I could be in the gym in the mornings, and these kids spent a lot of time. And so we had a really good 2 years, a great group of kids, and then they went on to Port Moody Senior and actually did quite well.
So at this time, who are you looking to as like a mentor / a guide? Like who are you looking up to? Who's giving you the info? Like, hey, you might want to look at running this. Are you going to camps? Like, where are you getting your info from?
I'm going to camps. I'm going to clinics. I'm driving kids down to basketball camp in the summer, staying overnight, working camps. So I didn't really have any mentors at that time. I was just so new to the game and just kind of learning it, right? But I just when I went down to and worked camps in the States and went to these clinics, you just got introduced to so many different ideas. And then in 78, 77, I went to Centennial. And I got a chance to coach the senior boys there. And my first year there, we had probably the best team maybe I ever had, but I didn't really appreciate it or know it. And we won the Fraser Valleys. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about basketball. I was like a arrogant jackass. And
things have changed now,
though. Maybe, I don't know.
Keep going. Sorry, I don't know.
And then that's good though. And then I went to the BCs, and I actually missed the meeting of the coaches. I was practicing. I didn't have any idea of kind of tampering down the practices, and I didn't get my passes, and I got into a fight with Ken Winslade the very first day, and then we got our butts kicked by Jack Hoy in Cologne in the second round, and it was at that point I realized that I had a lot to learn, and I didn't want that to happen again.
So I think that's a big deal, right? And I think in all successful coaches, all successful people, there becomes a moment when you're like, okay, I'm not okay with losing anymore. So we're gonna change a few things, and we don't want that to happen again, just like you said. So when you say that, what actually happened after that?
Well, we actually had a really bad season in 79. And then in 1980, 81, 82, I was doing a camp at Dan Masisko's, and there was a guy named Ken Shields that was the guest instructor one week. And at the end of the week, he asked me if I wanted to help him with the BC under 21 team. And Ken pretty famous at this time, right? And I said, oh my God, yes, right? And so I had the opportunity to basically every weekend in April, May, and June, I was at UVic. Basically, in those days, we practiced 9 to 11, 2 to 4, 7 to 9. Okay? And we did that every weekend, and we did it all summer, right? And, but I mean, Ken and Kathy Shields were the two best coaches in Canada at the time, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think there was too much argument. They were winning every year, right?
And so, I mean, that's when I started to really know that I didn't know anything, and just really started to want to learn.
You know, it's funny. So we've been doing these interviews, and the amount of people that got a lot out of the U19 and U21 provincial teams is staggering. People that didn't have opportunities got opportunities. I think those, if I've learned anything from these interviews, it's we've got to probably bring those back. Those seem like they had some tremendous meaning to a lot of people's lives and their careers.
But before that, I forgot. In 78 and 79 and 79, 80, before I met Ken at Danny's camp, I did the BC teams, basketball BC teams. I was Phil Langley's assistant coach for the very first basketball BC team that went south. So I had some great kind of mentoring experiences along the way.
So you're at Centennial. The thing starts rolling. I'm assuming you have a little down year, and then you start getting going.
Yeah.
What was it like to get going?
Well, we were pretty tough. In the 80s, we made the Final Four. I think in my 17 years at Centennial, I think I missed the BCs twice, and those were the days where you got 3 berths for the whole Fraser Valley, right? And it was so tough. I mean, many a year the top 10 teams would be 1 to 10 would be from the Fraser Valley. I mean, I had great players though. I mean, Centennial, we had 4 feeders, and the coaches at the junior, like Don Van Oss was at Como Lake, and Carlo Muro was at Millard. And, Carl Sheehan with Winslow, all those guys did a great job, and our Coquitlam League was good. It was different. I mean, there wasn't any community coaches. These were school guys, right? And they took pride in their teams. And so I was the beneficiary of having 4 feeders come into Centennial. And I'll never forget my first year for senior tryouts. We had 107 guys try out for the team.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you got from 4 schools?
Yeah, from 4 feeders.
So
my first year at Centennial, there were 2,300 kids there, grade 11 to 12. And there was a G block. G block went from 5. F went from G block went from 4 to 5:20. So the school finished at 5:20.
oh my goodness. Okay, so it was full day back then. All right, so you're coaching at Centennial. You have some fantastic teams. What was the best team you guys had there?
Well, we made the finals in '85 and lost to Richmond. It was Richmond's first win. We had nobody over 6'2", just a great group of kids. We had Jason Winslade's son was my 6th man, and Michael Scott was a starting guard. He was the son of my main kind of teacher of teaching, Gary Scott, when I was at Moody Junior. And Dave Perlin was first All-Star, Dom Perlin's dad. And then I had all the Perlin brothers, and we had a plethora of talent go through, right? And we probably we had one. Probably my best team is the year I lost to Steveston by 1 in the semis, and then Steveston beat Richmond by 50 the next night.
Holy smokes!
That was right. That was a great team. So we had like a lot of talent, but I was the benefactor of so many very dedicated coaches at the junior high schools.
Okay, so you finish up at Centennial. You go to Fox. What's it like transitioning? I'm assuming you guys hate each other at that point, the 2 schools. I know they do now, but was that the case back then?
No, because Don was at Como Lake, right?
Yeah.
So he fed great players to me for 3 or 4 years, right? So we ran the camp together. So the relationship was the 2 schools had great rivalries. And Poco had tough athletic kids. They just didn't have any coaching, right? And then Don came down and turned that around, right? And we actually lost to them in the Fraser Valley final in 1986, right? And in the years that followed, like the gyms, like it was sellout. You couldn't get into a Fox. That time it was Port Coquitlam game, and so it was great for the league, great for us, right? We were in that league with Maple Ridge, right? Like, I think I knocked Doc out of the BCs with the Centaurs, I think 5 times, and our biggest margin was 2 points.
Oh my goodness!
Right, and so in '86, Don won the final of the Fraser Valley. Ken Dockendorf finished 3rd and made the BCs for the first time, and then went on to win the BCs that year.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So our league was so tough. We used to be in the Western Conference, so we played like had a great rivalry with Bill Stebbins and Siakam. One of my all-time favorite people in coaching. Just an absolute class act. Bob Stebbins at South Delta, Neil Murray at Delta. We were traveling, Bill Edwards at North Delta. We were traveling all over the place, right? and Marinus horse team. I mean, one night we went into North Surrey. Both teams were very good. Marinus didn't have a lot of help. He was kind of like selling tickets, hot dogs, and coaching the team. And Centennial North Surrey had a big rivalry, big crowd. And Marinus and I went downstairs to talk to our teams after the game. We come out and there's a full-scale brawl on the gym floor, right? And we're pulling people apart. Girls are fighting, guys are fighting. And we have to get a police escort to the bus to get to our bus to get back to Coquitlam.
My goodness.
Love those days.
Well, you know what? It's kind of, it's very cool listening to you tell these stories. And we've had some other, coaches who were coaching at that time tell their stories. And, I think the teachers nowadays that are choosing not to coach, I think they're actually, hindering their own self. I think they don't get to tell stories like this because they didn't do it. Like, although you don't have to volunteer your time and it's a lot of work, but like some of these stories are like, it seems like it would be a highlight of somebody's life to be a part of stuff like this.
Anthony, like coaching for me, like I have got so much out of it. I've got 10 times more out of it than I've given. And everybody talks about, well, what about your kids? My kids came with me to practice, and they were looked after by what I consider the best kids in the school. And they came with me all the time. Like, I mean, and better environment to grow up in a gym of absolutely fabulous boys and girls, right? I mean, so a guy like, okay, so he and I.
It cut out there. A guy like who?
Carlo Muro.
Yeah.
He was the coach at Millard. And that's status, and now he's at Riverside. And we are tied for 47 years on the teaching list. And he's retiring in June. And after this, I got to do a Zoom presentation for him. I'm doing a retirement speech for him, 47 years, right? And like the significance and impact that Carlo Muro has had on his students and his volleyball players and basketball players, I could only wish to have the impact that he has had, right? And so those people that don't do any of this, they have no idea what they're missing, and I actually feel sorry for them because they've missed like you say, a lifetime of memories.
Yeah, and like I don't teach, but I'm in the gym quite a bit, obviously. But like I do it because I love it. It's fun. Like I legitimately enjoy going. Like these last 3 months, like I'm tired of Zoom. I had enough Zoom. Get me on the court, man. Like let's get going here.
Well, Stan Stewart, I used to always go to Stan's games, right? And when he was at Simon Fraser, and Stan always told me when you didn't like making a practice plan and going to practice, time to not coach. And he reached that point in his career. I haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think I ever will.
Well, you got to beat Carlos, so you got at least one more year left, at least. So see what happens. So now you're at Terry Fox. I mean, I was born in '85, so this is obviously before my time. But you get to Fox, your teams get very, very good. Now, how quick does that happen, and what kind of led to that happening?
Well, I mean, my first year at Fox, I mean, it was kind of a cheap transfer by me, right? I walked into a team that is loaded, right? And I mean, it was a team that Don had built, and we win the Big C's my first year at Fox, right? And we have that's probably the best team I've ever had.
Your first year at Fox.
Yeah, probably the second year at Fox was the best team I ever had. It's hard to say. Both those teams would have beat a lot of those teams in that pool that was just done. That had some other teams knocking our Terry Fox in that simulated pool, right?
Right.
our two teams that in 92, 93, 93, 94 were completely stacked. And we won back-to-back championships. In the second year, Bill Disbrow said that the team that he had was the best team in the history of Richmond. They had 7 guys on the Basketball BC provincial team.
Wow.
And we beat them in the final by 13.
Now, let's go psychological for a second. So everyone knows you're going into that game. They got 7 players on the provincial team. What do you have, 1?
I don't think we had any.
Okay, so your team knows the other team's got more talent. What is your mentality going into that to the kids, saying, we got to win this thing? Like, I think a big part of coaching, a big part of life is like having just like a total blackout of realistic behavior. Like, you don't need to be realistic in life. It's totally not necessary. You can go in there and say, we have no provincial players. They got 7. We're going to win anyway. So what kind of is your mentality there to put that together?
Well, we played them in the final of the Legal Beagle that year and beat them. And then our point guard hurt his back and didn't play. Basically, didn't play. The Legal Beagle wasn't after Christmas at that time; it was well before Christmas, and so we lost our point guard. And we went back to Richmond in middle of February, and they beat us by 41 at their place. 37 or 41, I can't remember. It was bad, right? And so that was our only loss that year. And no, we lost to Franklin in Seattle, and they finished, I think, second in the state. They lost in the state final, and so we. I'll never forget it. We're in the final, and I'm looking pretty white. Don is gone, and there's myself and the point guard in the Agrodome. And the point guard, Vic Gregor, says to me, he says, Coach, you look like you're really nervous and feeling kind of sick. And I said to him, Vic, I am nervous and I am sick. They beat us by 37, like less than a month ago, right? And I said, there's like 7,000 fans out there. And Vic, our point guard, who is one of the most underrated players ever in BC, he said, and he wasn't being cocky, he said, but when we played them last time, I didn't play. And I said, that is correct, Vic. So we walk out on the floor, and Richmond, they're hammering us. We're down by 13 at half. And we changed defenses in the second half and come out in a 1-3-1 zone. And at the end of 3 quarters, Vic Gregor hits a half-court shot to tie the game. And then the fourth quarter, we just owned them. Vic Gregor, I think he scored 29. Chris Lake was checking him, right? Vic was just and we had Dave Morgan, we had Richard Morgan, we had Aaron Mitchell. I mean, we were loaded, right? So, but Richmond was loaded too, right? And Bill, Bill did a great job with his teams, right? I mean, if we'd have played Richmond 10 times that year, we'd have probably been 5-5.
So you win that game. Then how's the career end up going after there? What's the next major?
The next year we're ranked number 1, and we're just flying through, and we're on schedule to three-peat, and Van Tech beats us in the first day.
See, it's funny. So the only context I have to that game is I was hanging out with Glenn Shue when he was at Argyle, and they lost after they had won the year before. And they were the number 1, and it wasn't really that complicated. Like, they were the best team in the province that year. And when they lost, I remember you telling me, well, I don't have the record for worst loss in the first round anymore. So It's pretty funny.
Many people would say we still do. Right? But before that, Abbotsford had owned that title because in the old days they were ranked. Only 16 teams went, and Gladstone was 16, and they beat Abbotsford in the first round.
So you lose that one. That's got to be devastating. Obviously, you got to regroup the following year.
Yeah.
What's the next step for you guys at Fox?
Well, we're tough. Like we're in the we make two more. We make like Final Four every year, but we ran into a juggernaut in Kits. Kits, like we lost to Kits in the final and semifinal. Like when the championship was, we lost from the final when it was at John Rose Place, right? And Kits was very, very good teams and well coached, and but we were tough all the way through till 2000, and then 2000 we make the final again. We played Pitt Meadows in the final, and we had played them. I think it was the 7th time we played them. We beat them every time, and we were up 9 with 4 to go. And I would say that this would be on me, not Don at all. Rich had basically given up. We fouled out his best player, the MVP of the tournament, with 4 minutes to go, and he had stopped coaching, and they kind of hit a couple of ridiculous threes, and all of a sudden went overtime when we get beaten overtime. That was the toughest loss with me from memory point of view. We were the best team in the province. Well, actually, you know who the best team in the province was Carson Graham.
Oh, and they had Paris Jackson and
yeah,
winners.
And we beat them in the semis, and we beat them we were down 1, and there was a shot went up, and Aaron Mitchell pushed a guy about 20 feet, rebound and score, right? And they had Brett Charlton, and we won that game by 1. They were the best team. They had beaten Pitt Meadows quite handily at the Western Canadian by 25 or something.
So throughout this time, at some point, you end up helping out a university as well, right? What's the situation there? How's that end up happening, and what happened?
I don't know. I end up getting kind of bored, and so I take a year, and I took a year. When 1998, I went to UBC, and I taught till 12 o'clock, and I coached the UBC Men. I went in for Bruce for a year. A great experience. We only had 8 players, but those guys, I'm still very, very close with those guys. Gerald Cole, Dom Zimmerman, Nico, Johnny Dykstra, just great guys. And it was a great experience. We ended up playing Victoria in the Western Conference playoffs, and they had that 6'6" guy. Oh, he dunked over us when we won the second year. He played for Kerry High. When Eric, he was a great player. He played for UVic, and UVic was ranked number 1 in the country. And we went over and we played a triangle. It was best 2 out of 3. We played a triangle and 2 on them in the playoffs, and we upset them the first night. And in those days, you have shoot-arounds, right? So I come back the next day. We have a shoot-around on the Saturday morning. And as I'm coming in, Ken Shields is with Guy Vitry. Ken Shields is taking the shoot-around for UVic, right? So I said, holy cow, we're in for a different look tonight, right? And so we triangle in 2 of them again, and we're up 7 and at halftime, and Ken goes into the locker room at halftime as well, right? And then in the second half, they come up with a different lineup, right? They hadn't used three guards. They had three really good shooting guards, and they came up with a different lineup, and the triangle and two didn't work, right? Because there was always somebody open. And so they beat us by, I think, 3, and then we lost by 7 the next day, right? That's a great experience at UBC. And then I worked at, I helped Scott, I think Scott Clark in 2002, but I still taught. I just went up after school every day, and that was a wonderful experience. They were in Canada West at the time. And then in 2005, I had serious surgery on my neck. They had to fuse my 5, 6, and 7, and I had taken a year off to help Deb Huband at UBC Women, and another new great experience, right? So, and earlier than that, Deb had taken me on an experience to go to. I went to the University World Games in Seoul, Korea, with Deb. She was the head coach for Canada basketball, and never seen an event like that. Second largest event in as far as athletes in the world. I mean, 27,000 athletes there. 2,700 athletes. 1,000. I can't remember. There was lots.
It was a lot.
and all sports, right? And ironically, Kevin Hansen was the coach of the men's team for the University Games in that year, and that was a great experience. My first real international travel, and then I got the great opportunity to work with Christine Stapleton as her assistant coach for Canada basketball for the junior women's. I think I was her assistant for 5 or 6 years, and then I was the head coach for 6 years. Saw the whole world, saw basketball from a completely different perspective and how it was played and taught in Europe. Saw some unbelievably great players from so many eras. Saw Candace Parker dunk in when there was World Championships in Africa in a game, had a breakaway layup, dunk. Played Skylar Diggins Smith when she was the guard for the U.S. Played against Brianna Stewart. I'll never forget it. We were playing down in Chile, and we had a very good team. And Gino was down from Connecticut in Chile, sitting first row. And both teams were 5-0 in pool play. And we were playing the U.S. in the 6th game. And every one of their players now from that team is in the WNBA, right? And but we had, I think, of my 12 girls, eight of them went on to play for our senior women's national team, right? And the universities that they were at, and they had done a great job with them, right? And so we beat the U.S., right? It was really kind of the first time that a team had actually beat the U.S. in like an actual world championship or Olympics, right? And it was a very big deal because the girls just didn't really think they had a chance. But I learned a huge lesson, right? The euphoria of beating the U.S. We had a day off, and we didn't prepare properly for Spain, right? And we ended up losing to Spain the next day in the playoff round. And so at the end of the World Championships, both teams were 8-1. Us and the U.S. U.S. won the World Championship, and we finished 5th because we went on to beat France and China and Japan, and we beat Russia that year. We'd beaten teams that Canada traditionally had not beaten. So I thoroughly enjoyed my experience with them. I was in Thailand with Natalie Ashanwa and Kayla Alexander. Both Kayla went to Syracuse, Natalie went to Notre Dame. and we upset Australia by 1 in the quarterfinals. We to make the Final Four in the World Championships, and so I saw the whole world, coach the best girls in Canada, and as is now, you got assigned assistant coaches for Canada basketball. So I got to work with some of the best university coaches in Canada. Chantel from Windsor had won 5 straight championships. Scott Edwards, Scott Reeves, Dave Wilson from Queens. Other list goes on and on. I just was so fortunate. And each of those people, Donna from Lethbridge, each of those people had an impact on my career. I learned so much from all those people along the way.
So during that experience, I was coaching with you at the time at Center Performance. You had coached Center Performance for what, 7 years? Is that how long you did Center Performance?
Well, I'd done it since it started.
Okay.
I worked with Ken Shields. Ken Shields ran the first male one, and Allison ran the first kind of female one. And so I'd done it since it started, but I did 7 years with the girls.
And you were head coach for 7 years, and I was coaching with you, and it was a great experience for me personally, because I was in mass learning mode. I need everything. Yeah, I was sponge mode, and one of the cool things about coaching with you was you came with a binder like this of stuff, and the kids, their bags got heavier every weekend because they were adding to the binder this much. So you obviously have a very detailed approach to educating yourself, documenting it, keeping it together. Where did that come from, and kind of like what's your thoughts behind the whole thing?
Well, it's a funny story. When I was working with Shields, the first summer, and it's not a Canada Games year, right? So we just kind of played some exhibition. It was a 2-year process. We won the national championship, but it was really gearing up for Canada Summer Games. I went back the next year, and Shields asked me for the practice plans from the previous summer. And this was 1981. And I said, I don't have them. And he said, what do you mean you don't have them? I said, I didn't keep them. And he went off on me. And from that day on, I have every practice, everything I've ever done since 1981. A great lesson, right? Because Ken was, you talk about detail. Ken was unbelievably detailed. And when I did CP and when I did Canada basketball, I think one of the responsibilities of a CP coach is to provide the coaches that are there with materials that they can hopefully use later, right? And while you're doing CP and people are doing drills and that sort of stuff, you forget the details of the drill. You don't because you're coaching in a basket. And when you go back to kind of remember what has been said and done, sometimes you don't remember some of the stuff, right? So I always thought it was my duty as a CP coach to give both the players and the coaches working with the girls something that they could keep a record of if they hopefully could use some of it in the future.
I still have mine. We just moved. Usually they're right in my office. We just got a new office. I don't even know where the stuff is, but it's somewhere here. I still keep them. They're great. There's great stuff in there. I mean, half the time the players had no idea what was going on when we were running new drills. Because that was one of their things. It was like new drill. And so like nobody had any idea what was going on. And then you're like, screw it. And then you go to the next drill. So it was entertaining for sure. But one of the things, I actually quote you a lot. Because people ask me, like, where do I get my energy from? Like, because I got a pretty hectic schedule. And I tell people the Rich Chambers story, I say. So when we were coaching at CP, CP was, God knows it took forever. It was like 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day, something silly. And, I was young back then, like 25, 26 maybe. And I was exhausted. We're going like 3 hours in a row. We're taking a break. I'm trying to create energy, all that stuff. and we're all in the coach's room, and you're still out there doing things while everybody's on a break, and then you come in, you grab a bag of Lay's and your Coke, and you're drinking, and then I'm like, Rich, what the hell? Where are you getting this energy from? And you said, you got to do it, baby. You got to do it. And you're like, and when you don't have it, you got to fake it, and then it'll show up. And I'm like, okay. And so that's kind of like been my mentality. Like, you got to find a way to just figure it out. And because at the end of the day, nobody actually cares what's going on in your life. Like, when you show up, it's time to perform as a coach, and it's your responsibility to give your best to the athletes. And so I got that from you, and I appreciate that.
Well, enthusiasm is a Greek word means possessed by the gods. And anybody can be enthusiastic for a year, 5 years. But if you're enthusiastic and energized for a lifetime, I think then you've kind of solved one of the secrets of life.
Well, and you have staying power too, right? And people like to be around you, and it creates energy. Energy creates energy. It's a major difference, and it creates a better experience. But again, like we talked earlier, not just for the athletes, but for yourself as well. If you can create energy, like, I mean, one of the things right now in the world, we got so many negative things happening, and it's like you got to find a way to stay positive. Like, you just gotta, no matter what, you gotta find something. So sometimes you gotta manufacture it yourself, and you just create positivity. But it makes a big deal for sure. Now, what if you were to go back I'm going to go back to Canada basketball, because I know you had some huge wins, and I remember you telling me a story. I think it was just before you played that U.S. team, of the Windsor kid. You had a kid from Windsor, and she jumped up on the table and gave it.
Right.
Give everybody a little bit of that story, because I remember it was fantastic.
We had just beaten Russia to be 5-0, and I was doing an interview with FIBA, and it was kind of like an L-shaped change room. So when the coaches walked in, you didn't actually see the players until you turned the corner. And there was a very good guard from Windsor that had played for Chantel. I didn't know what I was going to say to the girls about the U.S., right? I mean, they had never been beaten and were the continual world champions. And as I walk in, she is screaming that if you don't think we can beat the effing Americans tomorrow, don't show up, right? And so I turn the corner, and she's actually on a table, standing and screaming this, right? So I don't really have anything to say. I just said, hey, let's grab our bags and go, right? And that's the way we approach the game, right? And so we were never like we were not afraid of them. And we didn't beat them by one. I think we beat them by like a dozen, right? And the girls, but I mean, we had Naira Fields, we had the two Plouffe, we had I'm trying to think who's on that. We had the guard from Windsor. We had Chris and Di from BC, right? We had our team was just a wonderful group of girls, young women, and great competitors.
So over the years, you've basketball coaching has created your best friendships that you have. Talk about the relationships between going head to head like this and then being best friends with these people that you've been coaching against.
Well, when I started coaching, the people that you played against, you also socialized with, right? It was like a fraternity. When I was talking to Barb, Bill Stebbing's wife, the other day after he passed away, unfortunately, right? And Bill Stebbings was one of the best guys you could ever meet. Bob Stebbings, same way. Neil Murray, same way. Marinus, same way. Doc, Goulet, right? They were all lifers, right? And everybody had the game in perspective, though. Everybody wanted to win. But after the game, we ended up going out with the opposite coach all the time. And it wasn't, I remember Tom Harris was in grade 12 when we were playing North Delta, and Stan Stewart was coaching North Delta, right? And Stan and Tom Harris, both young teachers at the time, they were going to a party at Tom's after the game, right? It was a thing that was a part of the game. You don't see that now because there's so many community coaches and those types of things, right? But I mean, the friendships you develop with these guys. I mean, never forget it. I was having a party. We were playing. It was after my tournament at Centennial. I was having a party at my place with all the coaches, and my wife was pregnant. And we get back to my place, and my wife tells me that we got to go to the hospital, right? And I'd say, well, but we got a party. So all the coaches came and used my place as a party. And I go to the Royal Columbian and with my wife, and I'm pacing back and forth, and she's not even close to delivery, right? And the doctors kind of give us a timeline. My wife looks at me, and she knows me pretty well, and she says, I think you better go back to that party and make sure our house doesn't get wrecked, right? I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah. Boom, and I was gone, right? And I went back to the party, got back to the hospital about 4 or 5 in the morning, and things worked out well.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
And how did basketball impact them throughout their life?
My daughter didn't play. My son, he played. My son was a very good player. He played for Port Moody, had a great coach, absolutely great coach, a guy by the name of Alex Devlin. And if any parents are listening out there, I would go to our schedules worked out. I probably missed, in this grade 12 year, I probably missed 3 of my son's games. They just seemed to play on opposite nights, right, than the Ravens. And I would go in. I would sit at the very top corner of the bleachers. I would watch the game. I would never drive my son home because he should be going home with his teammates, right? I would never talk basketball with him unless he brought it up. And the only time I talked to Alex during the season about basketball is when I took him a great big, huge bottle and thanked him for a wonderful experience, right? And I never watched a practice, right? And for parents listening out there, let the coaches coach your kids. Go to the games. When you get in the car, talk about something else, right? If you want to talk about basketball, let your son or daughter talk to the coach about basketball.
Well, that's great advice. It's unfortunately probably going to be ignored from a lot of people. I fully agree with you. We're in 100% agreement on that one. Now, let's talk about the Legal Beagle for a second. So the Legal Beagle is arguably the most prestigious tournament in the entire province outside of provincials. And it's been that way for how long?
Well, it's something that Don Van Os.
What's Legal Beagle mean? How did it start?
Okay,
give me the whole thing. Why is the logo you with a briefcase running? Like, give me the whole thing.
It's not me. I was at Centennial, and John.
I'm not a bad artist if it's not you.
Okay,
go ahead. Sorry.
John, a lawyer, Jonathan Taylor, loved basketball. And he'd come up to the Centennial Christmas tournament all the time. And he wanted to see basketball get better in the Tri-City areas, not just Centennial, because we kind of dominated at that time. So he went down to Port Coquitlam and told Don that he would get the lawyers to sponsor a tournament, put money in to get her going, right? So that happened, and I think it was an anniversary this year. Was it 20 years? No, more than that, 30-year anniversary. So he would go around to all the local lawyers and ask them to contribute, and they would send money, and then Don started this tournament. And then it was before Christmas when I got to Fox. But then we decided that to move after Christmas, right? And because we had quite a good team at Terry Fox, lots of people wanted to come, and so we were able to get some of the top teams in the province. So I mean, there's lots of good tournaments now. Heritage runs a good one. Abbotsford runs a good one, right? But traditionally speaking, we get probably 6 of the top 8 top teams every year. It's a great thing for our school, great thing for the community, and everybody looks forward to it. And it truly is a community event. And our athletic director, Rhonda Trunkfield, she kind of, along with Jonathan's wife, Debbie, decided that they should do a luncheon with it, right? And it just kind of grew, and it's just a fun event.
Okay, I got a question in from Chris Kennedy. I asked him, I said, give me a question for Rich. And he said, compare and contrast the difference between elite boys players and elite girls players, and the similarities, differences. Kind of give us the because you're one of the few people who's had the unique opportunity, and it's actually happening more in the CIS now because coaches are switching back and forth, it seems. But very few people have had the opportunity to coach both levels. So give us that experience.
Well, I don't coach them any differently, really, right? And I know that I'll probably be scolded for saying that. I mean, I shouldn't. I mean, I'm a little gentler with the girls, but not a lot. I find that as far as like the demands of the game, both want to be pushed. You can challenge both. With the teams I had for Canada, I never coached them any differently than my senior boys teams, right? I think for the most part, I think most of the girls like playing for me. I was not easy to play for. I was extremely demanding, as I am now with my boys teams. The girls have a better concentration level, for sure. I didn't have a desire to coach boys teams in the summer because I didn't think they could pick up the stuff quick enough, generally speaking. But I mean, the Canada teams obviously are either getting great coaching, and the basketball IQ is very good when they come into camp. So boys are physically, they can do more things and more gifted. I think the girls are way quicker at picking up a system of play. But no, I don't find them that much different, and I don't coach them that much differently. And I know there's whole books written about how you have to teach girls differently and coach them differently. And in my experiences, once again, I probably will get scolded for saying this, but many of the girl athletes that I have coached said they would much prefer to be coached by a male coach than a female coach. So,
well, I think I've heard both sides of that argument, and I think my belief is if you're a player that cares, the only thing you actually care about is who's going to make me better and who's going to help me achieve my goals. And if that's a male, great. If it's a female, great. But nobody actually, I personally, I've asked, I've grilled kids because I want to know. And I think that's really the only thing that matters. Like, do you make, when you coach me, do I feel good? Do you give me some confidence? Do I play better? Do I get better? Those are the things that actually matter. It's not any of the other stuff. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a lightning round here.
Okay.
Top coaching clinic you ever went
to? Ken Shields, 2 years practices.
That'll do it. Top scorer you ever coached?
Dennis Perlin, Dave Perlin's brother. He got hurt, didn't play in the BCs. Yeah, scorer I ever coached.
Top competitor you ever coached?
Oh. That is a tough one. I don't know if I can answer that because the good teams we've had, maybe Dave Morgan.
Okay. Top defender.
Jeff Antwi.
All right here. Best win. Favorite win you ever had?
Favorite win. To qualify for the BCs, we were playing North Surrey in the Fraser Valley at the MEI. We were down 27 at the end of 3. And we shut out North Surrey 28-0 in the 4th quarter.
That's a hell of a way to win.
Mike
Worst
Thompson,
loss. With the worst loss.
Tim Meadows in overtime in the final.
I guess competitor and toughness. Do you have a player who you would consider your toughest player? Like physically, didn't back down from anybody?
Chris Arca. Played 12 years for the Saskatchewan.
There you go. 2 last questions. If you go back and give young Rich Chambers a little bit of advice, not that you're not young today, but if you would give him a little bit of advice, what would you tell him to kind of get him going?
I would, if I could change, I'd like to be a little less emotional, and not as hard on the referees, because sometimes that got in the way of me watching the game. Right? So I think I'm better now. Not great, but I'm better. And the best advice I can give anybody is just continue to go to clinic, continue to read, continue to learn, listen to podcasts, get anything new. Every day, I try to pick up something either through Twitter or whatever comes across my desk that I can use. And you got to coach to your style. And when you go to clinics after you've been coaching for a while, you're looking for 1 or 2 things, not 50. And you got to have a philosophical base. Like, what do you want to do? If I walk into your gym, I should know what your strengths are as a team and as a coach.
Last question. What would be the one major hurdle, like a dealing of adversity you've had to go over, the biggest one that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today?
I've been pretty fortunate. I think the year that I coached with Deb, that May I had major operation, and I was in a neck brace for like 5 months, and I felt kind of awful for a year. And I found coaching and feeling terrible to be a challenge. But I'm going to find a way to grind through it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I think there's some great tidbits. I think documenting stuff like this is important, and this will be out there forever now for everybody. So I really appreciate it, Rich. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
All the best, and I like your new office.